Hello and welcome to the Brodie Blueprint, the podcast designed to help college students and young professionals navigate their career paths. Each episode, we sit down with industry experts from finance, business, sports, education, and more to uncover their journeys, daily experiences, and lessons they've learned along the way. Whether you're exploring career options, looking for networking advice, or just curious about different industries, this is the place for you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi everybody, welcome back to episode 14 of the Brodie Blueprint. Today I am joined by the Assistant Strength and Conditioning Coach at the University of Pittsburgh, Mr. Michael Stegemoeller. Welcome to the show, sir. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Excited to have you on. Obviously, you've got a lot of experience working in college sports, Division 1 sports, and big names in there, the schools you've been to, so I'm excited to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, we'll just jump in. We'll get started. Obviously, you got your bachelor's degree in applied exercise physiology at Texas A&M. Tell us a little bit about why you went with that program, why you got interested in this career, and what college was like for you.
Yeah, well, I'm from the Houston, Texas area, so Texas A&M. It kind of grew up. I grew up as kind of like admiring everything the school stood for, whether they were good at sports or not. But I grew up playing soccer, and as that kind of came to an end through high school, found the weight room through another teammate on the team, and just kind of fell in love with the stress that brought and the changes that I saw it make for myself on the field. And I just kind of grew a love for it and didn't know what I wanted to do in college, but knew I liked working out and I loved sports. And so I found out that this program was had an opportunity to kind of blend both of those things at Texas A&M, where I was lucky enough to get to go to school. And I guess what really sold me on the program was knowing that I could potentially work with athletes and just still be around sports, and that this particular degree program offered an opportunity to provide an internship at the back end of the program. So those kind of things really sold me on it, and the college experience was unbelievable. A&M's, I'm biased, but it's a unreal academic school that provides so many opportunities, various opportunities within programs, regardless of what your degree is, for everybody that goes through those doors. So and that kind of led me into the field following my last semester of college there.
Amazing. So once you've got this kind of weight room idea started in high school and stuff, were you going into college thinking that you want to work in conditioning, want to work in exercise sciences, or was this something you had planned out already?
I had no idea. I had no idea. Not until so my degree program, pretty much everybody but myself in the last couple of years of it went into either physical therapy or occupational therapy. I was the only one that went the different route. Everybody else, like, we'll just cut to it. Everybody else in that program was way smarter than I was, but I was drawn to strength and conditioning, and literally my second to last semester of college is when I found out the opportunities for the internships were either PT, OT, personal training, like cardiac rehab. And along the way, I'd worked for a chiropractor in college for at least a year, shadowed a PT, and both of those things were just like too slow for my ADHD brain. And this was more interesting. And I just kind of took a risk, did a little research on the facility that I was going to try to intern at, and Michael Johnson Performance in the Dallas area. And then got the internship, moved up there, interned, and just fell in love with it. Everything there was so cool, plenty of smart people. The environment was unreal, and you're freaking, at least at that place, you're around athletes of all ages, from like 7 years old to Olympians. So through those like 5 months that I was an intern up there, through the last part of my undergrad program, that really sold it for me.
Amazing. So Michael Johnson Performance, I saw that on your resume. So you started as a performance intern there, about a year and a half before you started. You had no idea what you wanted to do, and kind of fell into this point film with this internship. What was it like getting that kind of real life experience in this industry for the first time?
Man, well, I didn't really have anything to compare it to other than working with some individuals that were not necessarily athletes. And through my program, I was a part of a class that let us work with professors actually, and we just
Okay.
kind of, it was like go out there to this little outdoor gym and pretty much run a boot camp for them a couple times a week, and you get
Okay.
like class credit for it and whatnot, and it's obviously supervised because we're like 20 years old and only know bodybuilding.com stuff.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
I mean, the experience was unreal because that facility is, I mean, it was opened by an Olympian. He
Wow.
brought in a handful of really smart guys, some that were like biomechanic personnel that were put there by Nike. And
Wow.
I mean, you like pretty much within the sports performance world, you name the experience, and we got to go through it there and learn from it. So
Amazing.
there was just such a wide variety of things we got exposed to there that just really put me on.
Amazing, man. And then, so I saw in your experience, well, you had a couple other internships. You were then an athletic performance intern at the University of Houston. What was that like? Was that a different kind of experience? What did you do there?
Yeah, so that that came about through the tail end of my work with Michael Johnson Performance over the couple of years that I was there. I got to be the lead sports performance coach for this partnership with the Solar Soccer Club in the North
Okay.
Dallas area. And our partnership pretty much revolved around 4 development academy teams, which of different age groups were pretty much the best that the club had to offer for either the men or women's side for
Yeah.
different age groups. And
Okay.
like one of these teams I worked with, they had at least half the team went to a Division I Power 4 roster. It was, I mean, just really talented kids. And that got me out of the building a little bit to where I wasn't just working with random athletes that were there for like, they were sold on a 5-week package, and then like the next wave of athletes rolled through kind of randomly.
Yeah.
And so through getting to work with them in a team environment where you see the same kids over and over again for over the like 5 or 6 months that I was out there
Yeah.
working with them, just really grew a love for working in the team setting. I played soccer, that was awesome. Got to work with teams, and so I had a connection at the University of Houston.
Mhm.
Actually, like a family friend of mine was playing volleyball there at the time, and they got me in touch with their strength coach. And I literally just moved home, lived at home, drove to U of H, which is like about a 30-minute drive every day. But that is really what sold me on
Okay.
the collegiate setting, was being able to see in an even higher level environment.
Mhm.
Um, I was working with volleyball, softball, track, swim, dive,
Wow. Yeah.
um, a good number of athletes on a regular basis. The team environment was awesome. It's all high energy stuff for the most part, and
Mhm.
I was only there for a semester, but being able to see at a higher level in the weight room how things go over the course of a semester, like how that
Yeah.
leads into like the start of the swim season began in like October, I'm pretty sure, at U of H. So I got to see how that like training kind of bled in from the late off season, pre-season into season, and the competitive phase of things. So um, all of that at U of H really sold me on what kind of started the my tour down the collegiate path to
Mhm.
becoming a college strength and conditioning coach.
I think one thing I've talked about in a lot of episodes is that a lot of people worry that when they're an intern, they might just be getting coffees, they might just be running around doing kind of boring stuff that you wouldn't really want to do. This one for
Uh-huh.
you sounds like it had a huge impact on you. It was hugely valuable. What kind of stuff are you doing on a day-to-day basis down there?
Yeah, so I was working for Scott Bird and Demi De Lorenzo primarily. They were
Okay.
managing most of the teams I was working with. Dave Miller as well was the track strength and conditioning coach. But on a daily basis, it was pretty much, and I think maybe this might have been different if this were, if I hadn't already been in the strength and conditioning world to some
Okay.
level for at
Yeah.
least a couple of years, probably would have been a little different. But for the most part, since I had that experience, I got to be a little more hands-on a little sooner
Okay.
when
Mhm.
it came to actual like coaching the sessions that were happening on the floor and
Yeah.
whatnot. But it was a lot of like you prep the weight room for the sessions, like you're getting bars in place, moving boxes,
Mhm.
or setting up benches and racks and whatnot,
Yeah.
and then the tearing down of that and the maintenance of the facility, like wipe and chalk off racks, which everyone loves to do. And then it was it was really trying to pick brains and inquire to a deeper level of why, why whatever they did in the swim lift, why did that happen? Or why did that make sense for the strength coach to have these athletes do at this point in time?
Yeah.
And then start to really go down rabbit holes of different styles of programming, um, the tier system and the conjugate model and undulating periodization and things like that, to where um, things really started to make sense on a different level. Because at the private facility that I was at in Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
everything was run on the same structure,
Okay.
just because it made the most sense for certain age groups, and there wasn't really any variability to that. But then when you get into the college setting and there's athletes that partake in different sports that require different demands, it's not just like a group of random people. The way that all of those things started to blend together kind of forced me into learning at a deeper level, and I guess for my own good, to help move me down the road to becoming, I guess, a coach that's in their shoes. So
Amazing, man.
on a daily basis, that's kind of what it looked like.
Amazing. That sounds really valuable. I mean, again, it's good to hear that there is internships out there that are treating people like that, and kind of get people real life experience. That's cool. I want to get into the nitty gritty of your college work as well, but before that, we talked about 2 of the 3 internships you had on your experience. You mentioned one of them was a connection from back home. One of them was through Texas A&M's kind of program. What else were you doing to start your network and start looking for internships as a young guy and as a college student?
Yeah, so the college one was kind of, I guess, in my last semester of college, getting to Dallas was kind of built into the plan. Getting to Houston, that just took a little bit of work, like an email and a visit home over the summer.
Okay.
It was like, hey, I'm interested in doing this, and then oh yeah, we'll get back in touch with you. And then, to be honest, I wish I would have done more networking early on, because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was just trying to do the next thing that you're supposed to do on the way to becoming college strength coach.
Nice.
So when I was at U of H, I didn't really network too much outside of the weight room, but when I found out I got to go to grad school and get a master's and be a GA, I was like, okay, well, I'll start looking up who's got spots for that. And so I came across 2 places that I interviewed with, got offered one, and just moved. It was literally a phone interview. A couple of days later, it was like, hey, let me know by the end of the day if this is something you want to do. I was like, yeah, I'll do it, of course. And so moved there, and then, while I was at Southern Miss, did some networking as well within the staff there, but still, I guess part of it comes from being pretty introverted, just didn't, and I never heard of anybody going out of their way to call people to try to learn things and whatever. It was just research material, not, and try to just get smarter and maybe better at programming, but not go try to meet people and whatever. So, man, it wasn't really even until I finished grad school that I was looking for a job, and at the CSCCA, which is a big collegiate strength and conditioning association's summer conference, so the annual one that a ton of strength coaches are at, that I was like, I guess I'll try to figure out who's here, who's at places that I want to be at, and then try to just professionally slip in and introduce myself, whatever. And a couple connections came through my previous mentors at the University of Houston. And actually, the girl that I worked for at U of H, she was mentored through one of the strength coaches at Texas A&M, and introduced me to her, which is how I then got my paid internship at Texas A&M following grad school. So I think following that just kind of started to snowball a little bit of confidence in trying to reach out to people, and then kind of trying to accept that if nobody knows who I am, how am I going to ever move anywhere in the field, or other than internally within a staff. So I think when it comes to networking, that's kind of how it snowballed for me a little bit. And now, obviously you have to be respectful of people's time and their own schedules, and they don't want to leave work and then get on the phone for another hour with somebody else when they're probably going home to a significant other or even kids. So just trying to be very tactical with, I guess, who I reach out to and what information can I try to get from them that's not easily found on Google, and
Mhm.
just like genuinely build connections, because there's obviously so many great people in the field that love to share information and
Yeah.
that may want to create another connection themselves. So yeah,
Amazing.
that's kind of been the strategy for me going with that.
So obviously, like you said, they're getting started a little bit later in networking and stuff, and how you said you're a little bit introverted. It's maybe kind of brought you out of your shell in the last, in the latter half of your career. What advice would you have for students just now, just haven't started networking, they want to, but just don't know what to say? What would you say to people like that?
Yeah. Oh man. Um, I think back in the day, if I were to have tried to get myself out of my own shell, uh, and it's pretty for me. I think it depends on like what you want to know and who you want to know, and I guess why those things matter to you. So uh, if I'm a younger strength coach who is an intern that is seeking out a graduate assistant spot, maybe it's and not every school does these positions.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a fellow position or
Yeah.
paid internship, whatever it is. Seek out, like try to Google and find out who runs these positions, who might do the hiring, or like who's the oversight for them.
Yeah.
Maybe try to get in contact with them, say like, hey, I'm this person and this is my experience so far, and I'm looking to take the next step. What's some information or like some insight you might have for a guy in my shoes looking
Okay.
to make the next jump in the field? And then I think building off of that, the once you become, I guess in my field, once you become a graduate assistant, that changes a little bit. Then you try to be maybe a little more intentional with where you might want to see yourself, whether it's
Yeah.
within a certain department or within certain or not department within a certain university or within a certain location, even in
Mhm.
the U.S. You might be more intentional about like if I'm an East Coast guy, maybe I'm only trying to seek out connections or resources or information from
Yeah.
people in North Carolina, New York, Jersey, whatever it might be.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's just you have a genuine interest in like one sport, and maybe that's soccer, or maybe it's volleyball, or like
Yeah.
maybe you're a tennis guy at heart, or golf. And it's okay, who are some of the best programs, or like who are some people, just generally speaking in the field that you might be able to toss some ideas to, and like maybe they confirm or deny,
Yeah.
or like yay or nay your thought process on how you might develop these athletes, or uh, some kind of information they can provide you and whatnot. But that's, yeah, I guess as far as a strategy goes, that's kind of how I would tell my younger self to go about doing that.
Amazing, man. That's cool advice. It's actually good to hear 'cause honestly, a lot of the guests we've had on are people that have networked. It feels like since they were like 15, 16, like they've known everyone in the industry, and it's just something they've been used to. So it is cool to hear
Not
that you
me.
got started. No, yeah, no, that's what it sounds like. So it's cool to hear that as well. That obviously you're in an industry, but it's good to know, a good network of people, and you've been able to do that in the latter half of your career. So that's cool. You touched on earlier that you were focused on in school, just ticking off the next steps to become a strength and conditioning coach. I'm presuming that your Master of Science at Southern Miss was part of that. Is that why you went and got your master's degree? Was it part of the next steps?
Yeah. Uh, well, I had found out when I was at the University of Houston that was the route that collegiate strength coaches had to take. Like,
Okay,
and there's been more involvements along the way
cool.
when it comes to trying to get to where I currently am, which is where I like dreamed that I could get to 3 or 4 years ago. And it was just, yeah, it was like, okay, you have to go to grad school. Um, and what happens in grad school is like depending on the place, you may be handed the responsibility of programming for multiple teams, and maybe they're smaller teams, but like those are your teams. You're going to practice programming with oversight.
Mm,
Like the director might be your checks and balances for what you implement, and then also be standing in the room while you're running the sessions. And then there's some development that comes with that. And then, but like for the masters in sport coaching education, which is
yeah,
which is what I got mine in, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to be a strength coach, but I am like, so don't get me wrong. It was a fun like year and a half of courses and whatnot. And I've definitely
Yeah.
learned some stuff, but it wasn't like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm going to Southern Miss.
Okay.
It was more so for the coaching experience. And
Okay.
at the time, and maybe there's other coaches that knew more than I did. And I'm sure there were, or I'm sure there are, that like had more insight along the route, their own journeys, that is. But that's kind of how I got there. And then, yeah, we just kind of, I just kept seeking information from other people that were doing it better than I was and at a higher level. And I just kept figuring out like, oh, this is the next step we got to make. And then, yeah, that's kind of just what happened from there.
Amazing, man. No, cool. That's everyone's got their own ways of why they go to grad school, and it's fun to hear what yours was as well, of course. So what we've been through, so you've got your bachelor's degree, your master's of science, you've picked up 2 or 3 internships along the way. Now you're the assistant strength and conditioning coach at a huge university. I'm not even American. The University of Pittsburgh is quite a striking name to me as well. So you said a minute ago this is kind of what you dreamed of 3-4 years ago. What was the path like from getting both your degrees to being where you are now?
Oh man, well, it was and it still is. It's a path of a lot of long hours, just kind of doing the dirty work, putting your head down and trying to learn as much as you can, refine your processes for I guess whatever the sport teams you might be handed was. So for me at Texas A&M, that was following my master's program. There were a certain couple of things that had happened there to where I was handed the women's tennis and women's golf teams, and so that was like me running them with the oversight of the directors at the time, and just kind of figuring it out, asking a ton of questions. And then that led to a couple interviews over the summer when that position had ended because it was only a year long.
Okay.
And then I was offered the job at Cincinnati, and but that job was for a fellow position, and so
Okay.
it was supposed to be a year long, potentially renewable position, and it was for women's lacrosse and swim and dive. And to be honest, I can't remember if she had said that up front. Maybe she did in the interview, but I knew at the time. I was like, oh, nice, swim and dive. I've worked with them at Texas A&M, and I've worked with them at the University of Houston. So I could definitely like leverage some of those experiences, like what I saw, what I tried to understand from the training of their sport and whatnot, and obviously continue doing your own research and refining thoughts that come around to evolving your methodology behind developing them, or philosophy, that is. But there was also women's lacrosse as a part of that job, and I was like, I've never watched the sport, hardly ever heard of it because it's just not a thing in the Houston area of Texas, let alone most of the South. It's mostly like a northeastern kind of thing. And so anyways, took that job, tried to put my head down, make really good connections with the athletes and the staff, and which wasn't like a forced thing for me. I'd like to think that I'm very personable and able to create connections and build relationships that are like genuine, and trying to learn the sport along the way. Asked a bunch of questions to a couple of strength and conditioning coaches at Texas A&M who had the sport previously. Built good relationships with the head coaches. That word spread to someone at another university who had then apparently messaged someone on our staff. Then I got a text message from someone somewhere else that had essentially kind of put me in a position to where there was a chance that I could leave because the fellow position was only a year-long guarantee, essentially. And then that evolved, essentially, long story short, into my position getting turned into a full-time role. And that's when that doesn't happen and you just kind of sit back and you're like, oh yeah, now I've made it.
Yeah.
I mean, did it feel good? Yes. And did I like recognize that all of the hours and the research and the like going out of my way to try to become a better strength and conditioning coach, did they pay off in that one instance? Like finally, yes, after years. But it almost like motivated me to another level to where like, okay, like what can I do next? And
Mhm.
so that's turned into like gaining different responsibilities and things like that down the road that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily coaching athletes, but are something in the collegiate strength and conditioning world that kind of should add value to what you can bring to a staff wherever it
Mhm.
is. And so I think um, over the last 3 years, I've loved every minute of being at Cincinnati and everyone there.
Mhm.
And I didn't know a thing about the place until I moved there. I just knew that that
Nice.
was an offer that I had got, and I was like,
Yeah.
"We're doing it." 1,000
Amazing, man.
miles away from Houston, Texas, if not more. And so
Amazing.
then that recently turned into an opportunity at the University of Pittsburgh and a very deep staff that's very intertwined in a bunch of different things. And I'm definitely the least intelligent person in the office that I'm in, and I've loved every minute of that so far. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. That's a cool story, man. Obviously, I mean, you moved 1,000 miles away. You've only gone further north now, so it's another change for you. But that's exciting. How long?
Yeah.
So when did you start when did you start at Pittsburgh then? Is that a recent position for you?
Yes, about 2 months ago, actually, I moved out
Okay.
here about 2 months ago, and
So that's short term.
um, yeah, just moved about 5 hours east and a little bit north of here.
That's funny, man. So you touched on how you've worked with a lot of different sports. Some you had experience with, some you didn't. What's some of the differences that you found working with different sports teams?
Man, um, I think the different sports teams. It's funny because there's so much that's not different in
Okay.
the sense that if we need to get some kids stronger for whatever the reason is, if it's tennis, if it's like getting into a deep position to hit low balls, if it's strength for swimmers, which is important for them to get off of walls and the blocks for their starts, or if it's lacrosse for changing direction and
Yeah.
getting off the 8 meter line, like there's a couple ways to do it. Like we're gonna lift heavy and we're probably gonna like squat or lunge
Okay.
to some degree. So they're like there's a lot of similarities, but I think
Hmm.
a handful of the differences lie in the personalities that you get. Like some kids love training. Like there are some
Hmm.
lacrosse kids that love training, and there are some tennis players that don't love training as much.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to lift heavy because it's uncomfortable, and that both of those things are interchangeable for like you name the sport. You're going to get some kids
Hmm.
that love it and don't, no matter what the sport is. Sometimes because it's hard, it's uncomfortable, because they're being
Yeah.
held to a higher standard than they've previously been able to like slip by with
Yeah.
and whatnot. But I think some of it's the personalities, some of it's the interactions with sport coaches. Like some sport
Mhm.
coaches are very hands on and want a big say in what's happening off the field with their athletes, and I
Yeah.
totally get it. And
Mhm.
I'm I'm the guy that I think I'm pretty good at meeting in the middle on. Like
Mhm.
I see what you're getting at, and for me, it's not hard to not be stubborn
Yeah.
and not try to tell you that you're wrong, but try to convince you of why what I have to offer might be a good middle ground for both of us here, and keep everyone safe and whatnot, and then continue moving the needle and like helping me provide you with better athletes to get better at your sport. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think those are some of the biggest differences from team to team.
Interesting. Well, one thing you touched on there as well sounded similar to something that Austin said. When Austin started working with sports teams and bigger sports teams, he said that he knew all the X's and O's of strength and conditioning, sports performance. But one thing that he struggled to get started with was the whole communication aspect, talking to athletic directors, sports coaches, and stuff. How's that something you've got better at in your career, talking this communication aspect?
I think for me, the communication piece comes from I think what has helped me be successful in communicating with coaches, and whether it's somebody that I need something from or somebody that I'm just working for. And
Yeah.
um, part of it is knowing my role. Like I'm just the strength and conditioning coach. I'm not their head coach. I'm not
Hmm.
their dietitian. I have nothing to do with academics,
Yeah.
and I don't recruit people or cut people. And so I
Hmm.
try to stay within my boundaries and contribute as much as I can in that area,
Okay.
which I think not trying to step on too many toes or like try to it's one thing to try to move the needle, but it's another thing to do it irresponsibly, and then it
Okay.
causes friction because I'm
Yeah.
trying to do your job now. Something along those lines. I think knowing my role has helped a lot in my abilities to communicate, and then just being not that not that I'm a pushover or a guy that is just a yes man, but I think
Hmm.
being a guy that is flexible and adaptable and can meet in the middle on a number of different topics, as long as like keeping the athlete and in my role specifically, keeping the athlete's best interest in mind and keeping them healthy
Yeah.
and safe and whatnot. I think as long as everything there is all good, I'm a guy that can be so easy to work with,
Hmm.
to where as long as I'm able to do that, communication has never been a problem for me. So
Amazing, man.
um, yeah, I think those are some things that if anybody's struggling with the ability to communicate or like see eye to eye with anybody, I think it'd be beneficial to like look back to those qualities or um, maybe thought processes and whatnot
Yeah.
to see if there's any room to gain on making progress on those.
No, amazing, man. That's a really cool insight into maybe an aspect of your job that a lot of people don't see. So it's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Another thing before we draw to a close, before I let you go, take us through either just a day in the life of what you're doing now up at Pitt or a week in life, like how you plan your weeks and what your days are like.
Yeah. So my current training schedule, I've got, well, we'll go for the academic year, not the summer, because the summer
Yeah.
is kind
Okay.
of an outlier. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I'll have men's swim and women's swim, a dive group, women's lacrosse group. Whether or not the women's lacrosse group is in the weight room or on the field with either strength work or conditioning work,
Hmm.
I'll I'll contribute a number of hours to those training sessions that I'm responsible for, and then ideally be able to get out to as many practices as I can when I'm
Okay.
able to, because it helps you learn the sport more and helps you understand to a greater degree
Yeah.
how you can help develop these athletes. Like if there's
Mhm.
movement patterns you see over and over again that you've just been missing out on or didn't fully
Yeah.
understand well, or I use this example a few times. Like if you're familiar with lacrosse, they've got 8 meter shots where if somebody on offense gets fouled close to the goal, they line up and then there's like an attacker and a defender on both sides, and they blow the whistle and the attacker with the ball can try to sprint to the cage and shoot. But
Yeah.
um, when they practice those in practice in a more controlled environment,
Hmm.
I've been able to help like record on camera and show these athletes like if you're set up and you're taking your first step is moving your foot backwards, but the other defenders have already taken a step forwards. This is how
Yeah.
you can change your technique to hopefully get another step on these guys. And
Hmm.
so even with swimming, it's how can I maybe they're doing starts or they're doing underwater kicking and there's breath holding involved and different things like this. There's so much to gain from just getting more exposure to the sport that they're competing in, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, that's what they need to get better at. Um, so try to get to practice as much as I can, and then uh, here I'm also responsible for the volunteer intern program that we've got.
Okay.
So it'll be I'm not sure what the fall is going to look like just yet, but meeting at least once a week, going over curriculum and educating them on whether it's like creating a needs analysis, how to do that for you name the team, programming, how to become a more professional strength and conditioning coach, how to create
Yeah.
resumes, and how to be professional on job interviews and things along those lines. That's what kind of makes up most of my work day. And
Hmm.
then I guess my personal side of that is I try to get my own lifts in
Yeah.
and stay healthy. You got to walk the walk as a strength coach, not just because you have to, but
Yeah.
personally, it's something that I love. So I'll lift anywhere from 4 to 5 times a week in the morning,
Okay.
ideally, if the weight room schedule allows for it and whatnot. Work out sometime before my first group and the weight room gets busy because once like 8 a.m. hits, it's like, I mean, it's a toss up whether you'll get an uninterrupted workout in or not. So
Gosh.
do it while there's no one around and no interruptions. So,
Amazing, man. That's great. I mean, I really appreciate all your insight today. We're gonna our last little segment. We're gonna draw on all your wisdom and all your knowledge, and ask you
oh
for
boy.
one or two pieces of advice for people that are just starting out in their careers.
Oh man. I think for people that are just starting out, I can't speak to too many other professions. I couldn't tell you what it's like to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a construction worker or whatever it might be. But
Hmm.
I think you have to be willing, and I think you have to be willing to take a lopsided work-life balance early on. Just
Okay.
accept that you should, I think, in my opinion, you should be obsessed to a level of wanting to climb the mountain to get to wherever you think you want to be,
Hmm.
not as quick as you can and skip stuff along the way, but I think you have
Yeah.
to be able to accept that you're going to put your head down and try to figure it out in whatever way is possible, and that might look different for different people, but I think you that has to be done, and you just kind of got to push all your chips in and go all in, because it's going to help you get where you want to be faster, and you're going to get so much more experience and all that along the way. Um, I think because if you're not obsessed, it's this just turns into like a check a box and go home kind of job. And I
Yeah.
think at least at least in my work, that's doing everyone involved a disservice. Like you're leaving information on the table, which is going to lead to unrealized potential that the athletes are never going to be able to feel out. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think you just got to really, I guess it starts with figuring out if this is really something you love, and then if it is, you got to fall in love with it and just go all in. So that's what I would.
Amazing, man.
I guess that's the number one piece of advice I would give.
Amazing, mate. Well, thank you very much for all your knowledge, all your advice today. It's been really great having you on, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Perfect, man. Guys, thank you very much for listening. We've got new episodes every Wednesday. All other updates are going to be on Instagram and TikTok. See you guys in the next one. Thanks. Well, that's all for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and were also able to gain some valuable insight into a potential career. Please head over to Instagram and TikTok and follow us. That's the Brodie Blueprint. And also don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube as well. If you guys have any guests that you want to see on the podcast or any industries that you want to see guests appear from, please let us know. Until next time, guys. See you later.